Hey there, everyone. Hope you're doing well today. This is Raphael Garcia here on Thursday, June 6th, for episode 23 of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. And first and foremost, as always, I want to thank you for joining me. You can catch me here every week, usually on Wednesdays or Thursdays for this show. The regular scheduled Thursday show by MMA Ratings is our Mixed Martial Arts podcast, which will be coming up next. Shawan Hughes and I will be kicking it off probably about 45 minutes from now. And as always, thank you for following us, listening to our content. You can catch me at rgarcia_sports on Twitter, where you can see most of my ramblings and foolishness there. You can also follow MMA Ratings and Net to catch everything that we're talking about from the mixed martial arts space. There's content by myself, Adam Martin, Shawan Humes, and Michael Ford jumps in every now and then to produce content as well. So I wanted to say thank you for listening to our show. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are one subscriber away from 100 still after a week. Hopefully we can get that one subscriber this week and continue to build our network. Catch us on Instagram as well at MMA Ratings Net and check out some of the content and some of the fight reactions that we have there. As usual, I want to say thank you for taking your time to listen to us again, whether you're doing it live or listening to us on demand. So with that in mind, I got three topics I want to talk about today. More like two, where I want to talk about the WWE Superstar Show or Super Showdown, which is tomorrow. I'm not sure what time because I don't intend on watching it, and we'll get into that reasoning why in a minute. But I also want to talk about the Best of the Super Juniors finals and a little bit more about Jon Moxley as well. So with that in mind, to make sure that I am on time to kick off our main show today, which is the MMA Ratings podcast, let me go ahead and jump right in and talk to you about a couple of different things that have occurred over the week. Sorry about that. I wanted to take a sip of my tea to soothe my throat. But let's talk about Superstar Showdown first and foremost. This week you saw much of the Raw and SmackDown content being built to highlight this show, which is coming from Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, continuing the controversial partnership between the WWE and the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. And as always, or at least what we saw from I think this is their third show. What we've seen, the controversy continues. The story is never going to go away. I think it's going to get probably covered less, maybe. Well, I'm gonna dive into that. I didn't put that on my agenda, but I want to talk about that. But once again, the controversy is following this show as they head back to Saudi Arabia. One who has been marred in a wide swath of situations, including the killing of Jamal Khashoggi. I think that was last year. And this year, the country executed 37 Shiite Muslims. They claimed that these individuals were terrorists, but it's been frowned upon across the world as nothing more than them finding a reason to execute some minorities, all of them who were killed via beheading. And still, WWE is involved with this partnership. Now they've done something a little bit different, where on majority of their marketing and publications around or promotion around the show, they have not mentioned where the event is being held. They haven't talked about it being in Jeddah. They haven't talked about the location of the Coliseum or anything like that. They're just focusing specifically on the Super Showdown. But everyone knows the truth. Everyone knows exactly what's going on there. So there isn't really any remorse for people who are upset. Thing. They're going over there, and originally they didn't take any other, or there wasn't any mention of any of the women on the roster being. But there's been news that Natalia and Alexa Bliss are going over, and perhaps there's going to be a first ever women's wrestling match in Saudi Arabia, which many people are about this week. And Sami Zayn actually was not invited to come because of his ethnicity. It's pretty intriguing that WWE saying, hey, we value this money that's coming in more than we value your existence, almost for lack of a better term. So it's pretty interesting watching how that has broken down and how that has continued, because it's pretty troubling. It's pretty troubling. I would be troubled if I was Zayn, and I wouldn't be too pleased with that situation at all. But we see what's going on there, and we shouldn't be surprised because this is continuing to go on. And what's interesting is that WWE is involved in a contract, a 10-year deal with them, where I believe they go out to Saudi Arabia every 2 years. And I was thinking, how could they work this from a less than stellar PR situation into something that's a little bit better for the organization? And I kind of had two ideas that I'm going to talk about right this week. The first idea I had was specifically in reference to if they remain within the contract, how could they behave? And the answer to that question would be to take the money that they receive from the organization, take it and donate it to any type of charity. To be honest, find an organization that would benefit from that money and put put the funds there, because what's going on is definitely a problem that many people are pointing out day in and day out. Putting the money there would help quell some of the anger, I guess, that a lot of people have. I'm not even going to necessarily say quell that anger, but it may quiet some naysayers, for lack of a better term. I don't think it's really going to do a lot when organization, a company that has basically made it clear that, hey, we're going to do dealings with Saudi Arabia, all the atrocities they've committed, regardless of all the questions that have arisen with how this crown prince is behaving towards people within the country, regardless of all the human rights violations and everything else that they've been involved in. To see that this organization is still willing to deal with them, it's going to remain negative in a lot of people's eyes. I do know people who have canceled their WWE Network subscription because of it. I don't think that that's going to remain the case. I think that some people are kind of, I'm not going to say over, I don't think that that's going to remain the continued practice. I think some people will join back in over time. But either way, I think it is pretty interesting to see how this is how far along is this going to continue, and will it remain a black eye on the organization? But they could also cancel the contract. I know that there's going to be repercussions with them doing so, but we've seen other organizations do that. I can't think of any off the top of my head. When I wrote my second piece, I think I talked about some of the other organizations that have canceled their deal with Saudi Arabia, but there have been some that were working with the country initially, but no longer decided to do so. So, yeah, I mean, would it hurt the perception of the organization over time? I wonder about that. We've seen their stock prices drop, their stock prices continue to drop. I think that is this Saudi Arabia deal is part of it, but there's also more involved with some of the stuff that we see going on from a rating standpoint and a fan engagement standpoint. But I do think that there is going to be continued blowback throughout this 10-year deal every time that they go to the organization, or every time they go over to Saudi Arabia, because you see that they mention it less and less every time. I believe Scarlett Harris on Twitter was the first one to tweet out something that kind of caught my eye, where she's talking about how this event is being publicized as being bigger than WrestleMania. And they're talking about that after a historic WrestleMania this year that was headlined by women for the first time. So that also kind of flies in the face of the moment that occurred when Charlotte, Becky Lynch, and Ronda Rousey headlined WrestleMania 35 in the Barclays Center. So let's talk about the show itself. Me personally, I have zero interest in the show. I think I will be at work when it's going on, but even if I was home, I would have no intentions on watching it, simply because of the makeup of this show from start to finish. There isn't anything that really catches my eye. I was listening to a podcast just a second ago that called everything on this showcase a glorified house show. So we have how many matches do we have? We have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. We have 9 matches playing on this card. The 50-man battle royal. I mean, what's the point of it? There's nothing. There's no stakes. We saw Braun Strowman win one last year, got an ugly green belt, and it didn't amount to anything. So there aren't any stakes around this match. And I mean, what is the value of the victory? The individuals are gonna get the win. Whoever's booked to get the win won't get a push. It won't be talked about. It'll probably be talked about for a week on Raw and SmackDown, and that'll be the end of it. So there really isn't anything to take from there. Triple H versus Randy Orton. 10 years ago, this is a great match. 15 years ago, this is a great match. Now, I'm not excited to see this. I feel like it's going to be another slow, plodding match like we saw with Triple H and Batista back at WrestleMania this year. Another slow, plodding match that no one wants to see, and that isn't exciting to anyone at all. So there's going to be that match as well, and again, no stakes in that match as well. Goldberg versus Taker. This is a showcase match. It's kind of being pushed as the big draw. Me either, man. This doesn't get me excited. This doesn't get me hyped up. And on top of that, we know that they're not the guys they were decades ago. So what type of match are we in store for on Friday? And I say we, I mean the people who will be watching because I'm not one of those individuals. But what type of match are those individuals in store for? Should they be excited about what they're going to see? I think that the answer is no, in my opinion, because we've seen how Undertaker's matches have changed over the years. He's not the same fighter that he once was, and I think that that's important, and I think that's worth recognizing heading to this match. Goldberg isn't the same guy he was before either. If this is a quick match where it's just like a all-out brawl, kind of akin to the Samoa Joe Brock Lesnar match from last year, I believe, or maybe the year before. If this is something like that, I think that will be better served for both men. But if they're expected to go in there and tell a 15, 20-minute story, it's not going to end well. Bray Wyatt, goodness, Baron Strowman, what the fuck? Braun Strowman. I just combined Bray Wyatt and Baron Corbin into Braun Strowman, whatever. Braun Strowman versus Bobby Lashley. This match could have been something special. If there was a lot of story built up around it, around these two big guys going at it, I could be intrigued by what we have here. I don't think that it's been booked like the last few weeks. They had the arm wrestling match this week. The week before that, they were in the I think the 4-way, and that kind of got scrapped when they fought their way out of the arena. So there really isn't anything kind of take from that. Again, there's no stakes around this match. Nothing being built here. It's just two big men getting in there and putting on a show. Finn Balor versus Andrade. Finn is coming out dressed as the Demon. I think this is going to be a good match. It's going to be a technical match. And it's going to probably be a lot of action that I'm looking forward. A lot of this. If I would go back and watch anything from this show, it's going to be 2 matches. This one and then the Kofi Kingston versus Dolph Ziggler match. Those are the only 2 matches I will probably go back and watch if I hear that they are excellent. Those are the only 2 I would I would have any interest in doing. I was listening to another show earlier today. You were talking about how they think that this is the time to put the title on Andrade. I don't think that that's going to occur because the Demon is undefeated, and I think that he is the draw in this match. Then that takes us to Roman Reigns and Shane McMahon. Fuck this match all the way to hell because I'm 110% exhausted of Shane McMahon being on my TV. I hope he gets concussed. Well, let me not say that. Let me not say that out loud. But my mind keeps going back to when Roman Reigns damn near killed him, catching him with that spear as he tried to do the coast to coast. I'm not going to wish that on him again, but I hope that this match is a quick squash. That brings me to the Kingston Ziggler match, and I don't know. I think this is. I don't have any specific order for this as well, but this brings me to the Kingston Ziggler match for the WWE Championship match. I think this is where Brock Lesnar cashes in. I think he leaves with the WWE Championship, and while I don't like it in any way, shape, or form, I don't like. Well, I'll put it this way: it has intrigue if it builds Kofi as well. I don't want to see him get squashed. I hope him and Ziggler put on a great match, back and forth action, and then Lesnar comes out. I don't want to see him just walk out there as the match starts and crush both men. I hope that they are given an opportunity to tell a great story from start to finish because I think they have the potential to do so. I think they have the potential to do so. And I think it would be awesome to give them that opportunity to showcase, especially with Kingston being a racial minority and seeing him go over to Saudi Arabia and be well profiled. And I hope that is the case. But we know what Dolph can do. I think he's been well served in this feud. His promos haven't been the greatest. His promos have been, they've been passionate, but not the greatest. We know he can deliver from bell to bell, so I'm intrigued with what that will look like. But I hope that this just isn't a one and done for Ziggler. I hope he kind of sticks around and stays as a. He can be an intriguing character. He's one of the guys actually I think would benefit from going back down to NXT or not that back down, but going to NXT like we saw with Tyler Breeze. So I would love to see matches with him, Velveteen Dream, him and Adam Cole, him and Johnny Gargano. So many guys down there. I would love to see him do just a little brief stint, just do some matches, but he doesn't have to stay there. But if he wants to come and go, and that's how he's used, I would be totally behind that. You have Seth Rollins and Baron Corbin again, just like the Shane McMahon Roman Reigns match. Fuck this one as well too. But the thing that's so bad about this is that Corbin can work. I've been watching him over the past few weeks, and he's not as bad as everybody makes him out to be. Yes, he had those rest holds. Yes, he doesn't have the greatest character, but I think it's just because we've been overexposed to him. I think he is someone that can be more special than he's currently booked. This isn't going to help though. I do not see this as a match that Brock Lesnar will interfere with because I think that's just a little bit too predictable. Predictability isn't always a bad thing, but I think that's a little bit too predictable there to have Lesnar come down and cash in on Rollins. But again, I'm not too interested in this match there. Then we have Lars Sullivan against Lucha House Party. This is going to be nothing more than a squash match, kind of like how Braun was doing in the early days where he was squashing three guys at once. This is basically just meant to get Lars over. Who cares? 110%. Who cares? The Lucha House Party, I think they're a great group. They can definitely work. I would love to see them in the tag team picture. That'll never happen. Lars Sullivan is going to get pushed to the moon as a monster. We know that was always been the case, but no interest in him. And that was actually before the news or the kind of digging came out of his questionable commentary in the past. So that was even before then. But all in all, as I explained, you see why I'm not too interested in this show. However, there's going to be a lot of other content going on at the same exact time, and it's going to be purposeful content. And let's talk about some things we could be doing if in light of watching the Super Showdown on the WWE Network. So across a lot of Twitter channels this past week. There's been a lot of promoting of additional shows, different shows that feature women's wrestling, in light of the fact that this Super Showdown will not have uh, any women on the event. So, for example, let's see, I think this is Pro Wrestling Eve. Pro Wrestling Eve is having an event on Friday for the duration, and this is from their official Twitter account, Riot Girls Wrestling Pro Wrestling Eve. Am I following them? Yeah, I'm following them. On Friday, June 7th, WWE Super Showdown from Saudi Arabia will be live on WWE Network, obviously featuring no women. For the duration of Super Showdown, we will have a special WWE alternative live stream featuring all the badass bitches of Eve building up to Wrestle Kingdom 2. The stream will be happening on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Eve Wrestling. Head there, click like, and get notifications if you haven't done already. So, The Super Showdown, a free alternative live stream to WWE Blood Money, featuring badass women, and basically this is that continued stream starts at 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. in the UK. Looking at the poster, I recognize two of the women. The one woman who plays the undead in Impact, and Jordynne Grace, who she's a beast. I love her. But outside of those two, I know I'm not too familiar with the rest of the women on the docket. I hope Solo Darling's on the show. Love her. Love her. But I mean, that's one alternative to what's going to be going down on Friday. You also have, let's see what else is going on. What other alternatives? I think I saw another one. I think I saw another one going on, but I'm not 110% sure. But if you're looking for other content to watch and you don't want to watch WWE Super Showdown, there's plenty out there. Hop on over to YouTube, watch the MLW show from this past week. Watch the Defiant Wrestling show from this past week. Look at New Japan Wrestling and watch New Japan World and watch the. I want to talk about that briefly for a second. There's so much other content out there going on that you don't have to watch Super Showdown on Friday if you don't want to. So definitely take the time to do so, because there's going to be some great content out there and you do not have to watch this if you don't. But I'm going to use that if you don't want to. But I'm going to use that as a segue to talk about the Best of the Super Juniors that we saw, showcase that we saw from, oh, sorry about that, the Best of the Super Juniors show from this past week. And this was some fantastic wrestling. If you haven't watched much of the Best of Super Juniors, please take some time to do so, because this tournament has been great. I feel like I heard someone talking about whether it's not the greatest of all time. I think the consensus was no. Again, as I always like to put out there, I have not been the biggest follower of New Japan World. Or New Japan Pro Wrestling. I've had New Japan World for probably about a couple years now, or maybe 2 years now, and I have not used it that much. But I intend on collecting that, and this is the type of show that's going to make me do so, because I'm hearing great things about a couple of different aspects of this show. Let's go. I'm scroll down. So Will Ospreay defeating Shingo. One of my training colleagues, thought that this was one of the greatest matches that he's seen. He called it better than Gargano versus Cole, so that's pretty huge, if you ask me. And I think it's worth the watch. It's worth the watch, and it's something that really I really want to kind of go back and check it out, because Will Ospreay, he's talking a big game, talking about challenging the New Japan heavyweights. If he's actually going to be staying over on that side of the world now. And I'm definitely interested in seeing what he has to offer. I haven't watched much of Ospreay, but this has been the last 2 years. We've really been kind of coming up, and I'm interested in seeing more in Shingo as well. Jon Moxley defeated Juice Robinson for the IWGP US title. This is his first match since leaving WWE. He debuted a new look. Not really a new look. He's just wrestling in tights, no longer the jeans or the jean shorts. He's continuing and coming in through the crowd. He's using something that looks like an Impaler DDT a little bit. It looks like a combination between Dirty Deeds and the Impaler, which is with the double underhooks, but more of a jumping and driving of the opponent front on the head. Something that was probably banned within the WWE. But this match was hard hitting. There was biting. There was a whole bunch of stuff that went down on in this match here, and I definitely think that the that this is worth watching as well. And it kind of, man, Juice. I'm not Juice. Well, Juice too. I'm gonna talk about Juice in a second. But Jon Moxley, he's the hot ticket right now. He's the hot ticket, and I like that. New Japan pulled the trigger, put the belt on him, because it's going to get more eyeballs on his content. It's going to get more eyeballs from those fans that may have kind of followed him as Dean Ambrose and are more intrigued at his jumping WWE and the story, jumping from WWE, and the story around that has kind of caught a lot of people's attention. I think they made the right decision by putting the belt on him, because it makes people want to see what's really going on. So I think this is going to help him. It's going to help him get some more eyeballs. I hope he has a good run. Juice, I think Juice had a good run with it. I am a fan of his work since leaving WWE. He's another guy. Both of these men, as you could imagine this match 4 years ago with Dean Ambrose versus CJ Parker, it would have been totally different. Moxley versus Juice Robinson was a hell of a match, and I think that this kind of shows what guys can do outside of WWE if they have the talent within them. This isn't just anybody. If they have the talent within them, what can they really do when they move outside of WWE? And this is a much must see match. You had Jay White defeat Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Okada and Romero defeated Villain Enterprises. But again, like the big piece to me was Moxley winning the U.S. title, and just him leaving the WWE gives you like some fresh matchups. What about him and Jay White? I mean, that's a match I would love to see. Him and Will Ospreay, another match I would love to see. Him, there's so many different guys. Suzuki, so many different guys I would love to see him have a match against. I saw someone pitch the idea of him joining the Bullet Club, and that Skype was cringeworthy to me. But I had a quick idea. It was like, well, what if he did join the Bullet Club and then sabotage that shit from the inside? Just went in from the inside and just caused carnage, which finally causes the group to implode and finally fully break apart. I think that would be pretty interesting to watch. And then that could be another piece of his feud with Kenny Omega, talking about how he basically destroyed the group that Kenny loved or whatever, et cetera, et cetera. But there's opportunity there. There's a lot of different opportunities to do a lot of different things with with Jon Moxley. And I think that that's what makes this transition so interesting. That's what makes this time in wrestling so interesting, because there's so many different opportunities. There's so many different men and women, and that is what we should be excited about. That is what we should be excited about. We don't need to be arguing about AEW or WWE, why WWE is dead or why AEW is not a competition, et cetera, et cetera. Save that arguing for the bullshit comments on these future pieces. Instead, enjoy all pro wrestling, because it elevates everybody that is involved. It creates more opportunities for these men and women, and it creates more opportunities for you, the fan, to enjoy professional wrestling. So please, hate all you want, argue all you want, but sit down, watch, and support professional wrestling, because this is a great time to be a fan. So with that in mind, I'm gonna go ahead and close out. Thank you again for following the show. I'm still looking to begin implementing some changes to this podcast this month, and hope we get an interview or two in this month as well. But thank you for taking the time to listen to this content. Again, you can find us at MMA Ratings Net on Instagram and Twitter. You can also go to MMAratings.net to catch all of our mixed martial arts content. You may begin seeing some professional wrestling content there as well. I am Raphael Garcia. You can follow me at R Garcia _sports to catch all of the work that I'm doing. And as usual, man, thank you for listening to what we're doing here. Please be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We need one more follower to get to 100. So again, I thank you all for the support so far. Let's push for 100 and let's push for continued growth. As always, thank you again and have a great weekend, everyone. Bye bye.